You are born into a number. Not a name, not a face, a number. A line item in a ledger so vast it would take 3 auditors a lifetime to reconcile. And even then, they would disappear before the final column. Your father is not a violent man. This is the first thing you need to understand. He has never pulled a trigger, never broken a bone. His hands are soft, ink-stained at the fingertips, smelling faintly of espresso and cigarettes. He wears reading glasses on a gold chain. He hums Verdi under his breath. He is the most dangerous man in the room in every room he has ever entered. You grow up in a house in Palermo where the ceilings are 18 feet high and the silence costs more than the marble. There is art on every wall. Genuine Flemish oils. A small de Chirico in the hallway that nobody ever looks at. Your mother sets the table for dinner at 7 o'clock precisely, and the men who come to eat do not speak of their work the way other men speak of their work. There are no stories about difficult clients, no complaints about the commute. There is only the weather, the wine, and the careful architecture of saying nothing. You learn early that silence is a currency. Spend it wisely. By the time you are 9 years old, you can read a balance sheet faster than you can read a novel. This is not an accident. Your father sits you at his mahogany desk on Sunday mornings while your friends are at football, and he places columns of numbers before you the way other fathers place puzzles. He does not explain what the numbers represent. Not yet. He simply teaches you to find the error. There is always an error. Finding it is the only game that matters. The error is how they catch you, he says without looking up. You do not ask who they are. You are 9. You already know. The mentor arrives when you are 17. You know him only as Enzo. He has the compact, unhurried energy of a man who has never once been late to anything, and a face so unremarkable it functions as a kind of camouflage. He drives a 5-year-old Fiat. He wears a watch that costs less than your school uniform. He is, your father explains quietly, the best financial architect in Southern Europe. You spend 2 summers inside Enzo's world, and what he teaches you cannot be found in any economics curriculum. He teaches you the first principle. Cash is a liability. This sounds like heresy. It is, in fact, the foundation. Cash is traceable, bulky, perishable. Cash gets found in walls. Cash is what amateurs use. What you need is velocity. Money that moves so fast through so many shells that by the time any investigator traces the wire, the entity that sent it no longer legally exists. The architecture is elegant, and you will come to love it the way some people love cathedrals. It begins with placement. The money enters the system dirty, your organization's cash, and you will learn in time that it is generated through construction contracts, through narcotics, through extortion payments dressed as consulting fees, arrives in fragments. Never in volume, never from one source. A restaurant in Naples processes slightly more revenue than its 30 covers could plausibly generate. A car dealership in Reggio moves inventory at margins that defy gravity. A chain of laundromats. And yes, the irony is intentional, Enzo tells you with the closest thing he has to a smile. Cycles cash through registers in 8 cities simultaneously. The key, Enzo says, setting a cappuccino before you in an unremarkable cafe in an unremarkable piazza, is that every transaction must be defensible on its own. Taken alone, it is boring. It is only the pattern that is criminal. Your job is to ensure the pattern is never visible. This is layering. The second stage, the money moves. Shell company to shell company, Luxembourg to Cyprus to the Cayman Islands, to a Maltese holding structure to a real estate investment trust registered in Delaware. You learn the specific grammar of each jurisdiction, the reporting thresholds, the beneficial ownership rules, the treaties. You learn which jurisdictions share information and which ones accept a phone call and a handshake instead. You learn that certain banks in certain cities have relationship managers who ask the correct number of questions, not too few, which would be suspicious, and not too many, which would be inconvenient. Each layer adds cost. Typically 4 to 12% depending on the complexity of the route and the discretion required of the intermediaries. This is not waste. This is the cost of clean air. The third stage is integration. The money emerges. It is now a legitimate apartment complex in Lisbon. It is now a stake in a renewable energy firm in Milan. It is now a vineyard in Tuscany, producing a Brunello that genuinely wins awards. Because there is no reason a criminal enterprise cannot also produce excellent wine. The money sits in the world looking exactly like wealth. Because it is wealth. That is the point. That was always the point. You are 19 years old and you understand the global financial system more precisely than most people who regulate it. At 24, you are given your own portfolio. The word portfolio sounds harmless, academic even. Your portfolio is a network of 43 entities across 11 jurisdictions. cycling approximately 60 million euros annually through structures you designed yourself. You sit in an office above a legitimate import-export firm in Milan. The office has glass walls. The glass walls face inward. Nobody on the street can see you work. You wear a Patek Philippe Calatrava. Not the flashy complications, not the tourbillon that announces itself, but the dress watch, the one that looks like it costs 12,000 euros to a stranger, but costs considerably more. You wear it because Enzo told you, wear the watch that says you are successful, not the watch that says you are rich. Rich is dangerous. Successful is invisible. You drive a 3-year-old BMW 5 Series. You live in a 2-bedroom apartment in a good but not extraordinary neighborhood. You eat at restaurants that are excellent but not famous. You have a girlfriend who believes you work in financial consulting. This is true. You do work in financial consulting. The consulting is for people who would kill her if they knew she existed. So the semantic gap between her understanding and reality is a kindness of a sort. You do not think about this too often. The paranoia arrives not as a sudden break, but as a slow tide. It does not announce itself. You simply notice one morning that you have memorized the faces of the 3 men who were also in the cafe yesterday. You notice that you have begun sitting with your back to walls. You notice that when your phone rings from an unknown number, a specific cold clarity washes through your chest. Not fear exactly, but the body's readiness for fear. A kind of pre-fear. You live there now, in the pre-fear. The investigative unit of the Guardia di Finanza has become more sophisticated. You read their annual reports. They publish them publicly, which you find almost touchingly naive, and you adjust your structures accordingly. You are always 14 months ahead of the current enforcement methodology. 14 months is your margin. You have decided that 14 months is sufficient. Some nights you are certain of this. Other nights you lie in the apartment in the good but not extraordinary neighborhood, and you calculate again whether 14 months is truly sufficient. The money you protect will outlast any investigation. The structures you built are defensible. You have done your job with the precision of a watchmaker and the patience of a priest. But Enzo is gone now. He retired to a house in Sardinia that nobody knows about. Or he did not retire. You do not ask. The first principle applies to information as much as it applies to cash. What you do not hold, they cannot take from you. You are 31 years old when they bring you the boy. He is 17, the son of a man you have worked with for 8 years. He has his father's eyes, which is to say he has eyes that have already learned to see without revealing what they see. He sits across your desk and he holds himself very still, the way young men hold themselves when they are trying to communicate that they are not afraid. You place a balance sheet in front of him. Find the error, you say. He looks at it for 40 seconds. He points to the 3rd column. You feel something that you will spend several days afterward trying to identify. It is not pride. It is not recognition. It is something older than both. It is the sensation of a door closing behind you. You pick up your espresso. It is very good espresso. The machine costs 400 euros and you maintain it with more regularity than you maintain most relationships. Outside your glass walls, the import-export firm processes its legitimate invoices. The city moves, the money moves. It has always moved, long before you arrive to architect its passage, and long after whatever comes next. You look at the boy. You do not tell him what the error means. You do not tell him who they are. He will learn. He will sit in this chair or one very much like it, smelling of ink and espresso, humming something under his breath, placing columns of numbers before a child who did not choose this desk. The ledger is never reconciled. It is simply passed on.